Welcome to Larry the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, I have a very special guest joining me. We are going to be discussing the history and evolution of merch, of bands selling merchandise, how it got started, how it's changed over the years, where it stands today, our relationship and history with merch. So, joining me for this special episode for her first time here at the layer is Mellisa. And Mellisa has her own podcast called Metal Chat with Mellisa. I will leave that linked down below in the description. And even though this is Melissa's first time here at the layer, it is not our first time meeting. We did a podcast together, Made in a podcast. And it was a lot of fun. And I said, hey, I got to get you here at the layer. So Melissa's here. We're going to talk about merch. So, Mellisa, thanks for joining me here at the Lair.
Thank you so much for having me. I love this show, so I'm excited to be on.
Awesome. All right. So, let's take it back. Where do we think it really started with merchandise?
So,
Because when you think about it, when you go back to like Elvis and people like that, there really wasn't anything like that. I mean, people bought records, they went to
right.
concerts. So, where do you really feel like it got started with the merchandise that we sort of know today?
I mean, I think that there were like in the 70s, there was, some t-shirts and things like that, like Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. But really it's Kiss. And, my age, I'm at the demographic where we came into metal starting with Kiss or hard rock, whatever. It wasn't really metal at the time. And if you remember in the 70s, there was an avalanche of Kiss. I mean, like, even if you
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
listen to Kiss, you just got, I mean, there was Kiss action figures and the lunchbox, of course, and all of this stuff. And, people were dressing up in Halloween costumes and they were the guys that it seemed like they really and I don't know if it was Bill Coyne or it was the actual guys in Kiss. They came up with this merchandising plan, this marketing plan, which was genius, absolutely genius, because it was out there. I mean, kids my age, people were going to school with the Love Gun, lunchbox, you know, and and you would see on Saturday morning cartoons, you're a little bit younger than me, but you would see on Saturday morning cartoons, you would see the commercials for the Kiss action figures. And I feel like that's really where it started. And back then, of course, they're augmenting their their album sales. It wasn't like now, as we'll get further on down the road, talking about how it's sort of flipped and how merchandise has become so important to a band's revenue. More important, I think, than it was starting out. I think starting out, it was more of an advertising thing. I lost you. I can't hear you.
Oops. Yeah, sorry. I had it on mute there. My
Oh,
kids are in the other room making all kinds of noise, so
oh,
I'm muting it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kiss, without question, is the first band to really. I mean, other bands I think at that time did sell some things, but it was very much a afterthought. It was more of like maybe something at a concert. Kiss was the first band to really, I mean, I was just thinking of this that if you see the Kiss logo, they have the little R, the registered thing on it.
right.
Were they one of the first bands to do that? Maybe because they
Oh,
were
yeah.
very aware of the whole 360. It's just not about the music. It's about the music plus the image plus the merchandise plus the movies, the whatever, just a whole like sort of immersive thing, almost like the way nowadays when they release movies. If you were going to go back to the 70s, you might say like Star Wars, when Star Wars first came out, was one of the first movies to really do that kind of thing, where not only was it
Right.
a movie, it was toys and action figures and all this
Exactly.
posters and all this stuff. And Kiss was really one of the first bands to really embrace that and to put their name on whatever they
Everything.
could. Yeah,
Everything. I mean, I think the
everything.
Beatles did it as well. I mean, they had, they had some movies and things like that, but I don't think that and I could be wrong because maybe not, I'm not that old, to that um I wasn't really, I wasn't a teenager during the heyday of the Beatles or whatever, so maybe somebody else knows different. But it seems to me that even like when I think in the late 70s, bands like their contemporaries like Led Zeppelin or AC/DC or anybody like that, you didn't really hear about any of that kind of stuff. I mean, you could probably get a t-shirt at the concert or whatever, but you didn't see it to the level. You certainly didn't see bands marketing to kids the way Kiss did.
I'm going to say that the Beatles were, because I have seen people who are collectors, and there was a lot of Beatles trash cans and, your
Really?
own Beatles wig and stuff like that. But I don't think that the band really had any sense of that, any say in that. They weren't really, it was almost like an aftermarket branding of the band, if you
Mm,
will. It was, and I'm sure that they made money off of that and everything, but I really don't think I could be wrong, but I don't think that they were sort of involved in that, and I don't think they still did it the way the Kiss did it. And it makes sense because Kiss was very influenced by the Beatles.
right.
Gene Simmons has often said that they wanted the band to be like the Beatles, four guys that sang, four guys that had different personalities that were sort of portrayed out to just like the Beatles.
Right.
John was the moody one, Paul was the cute one, George was the quiet one, and Ringo was the clown. Well, they all wanted to have their own personality so that it could be put out there and marketed. And even though the Beatles might have done it, I really feel like Kiss was the first band to really embrace that and the band to be super aware of the whole
Yeah.
merchandising
And
angle and
participating
everything.
in it. I mean, we all
Yeah.
know Gene is quite the salesman. So, and
Yeah.
even back then, he was very much, I feel like they were very much involved in it, that it wasn't like, oh yeah, we're gonna make these, we're gonna make these lunchbox, that they were in on it.
Yeah. And there was a point where there were a number of bands, like especially when you're talking about like the more soft rock bands. The hard rock bands had good images and stuff, but really like Kiss, Alice Cooper, there were a lot of bands that they didn't really have any image. They didn't have, I mean, I love Elton John, but
Right.
how does Elton John work on a t-shirt really? You know what I mean? It's like he doesn't have a logo. He doesn't have like,
Glasses, right? His
yeah,
stupid
maybe.
glasses.
You're right. Maybe right. The
That's it.
duck
Yeah.
costume and I mean, he
Yeah.
he he was pretty, I guess like that to a certain degree.
Outlandish. But
But
no,
there
I know
were,
exactly what you mean. But like, the other soft rock bands, Air Supply and Toto and whatever,
yeah, yeah,
they've done just nondescript, and even Led Zeppelin to a certain degree was kind of, you know what I mean? I mean,
yeah,
they did like they did, the song remains the same, and they did a little bit of stuff like that, but not, I mean, I think that people did a little bit of stuff, but I think that not to the level of what Kiss was doing. And then after Kiss, then everybody jumped on the bandwagon. Then
yeah,
everybody went, "Oh, wow, you can make some money doing this."
yeah. But it's so
Not just
interesting.
advertising.
Yeah, if you move into the 80s, then when you start to move into the 80s, and I think when MTV, especially the LA bands and everything, that sort of took that to a new level. But I always find it interesting if we were to move into the 80s now. If you look at the bands, all the LA glam bands, you never see them wearing band shirts. They're not all of them, but you see a lot of the K-Rock they're wearing. That was like really popular in
Yeah.
like the 80s. You see the
Yeah.
bands wearing radio station shirts, K-Rock, or maybe if they're from, some other area and there's a big rock station. Uh yeah, but it still wasn't I mean, it was certainly more than it was in the 70s, and the glam hair bands lent themselves to more image conscious things. And I remember going into the record store and there were shirts and stuff, but it still wasn't at the level that we see
No.
today, where you can walk into a Hot Topic, for instance, and the walls are wall to wall covered in shirts, or where bands have like saw a band like Ghost, who's very much like Kiss in the merchandising thing. I mean, every band nowadays has like
Everybody is.
dozens and
Yeah.
dozens of different shirt designs and stuff like that. I think back
Yeah.
even in the 80s was more popular than in the 70s, but it still wasn't like where it's at today as far as
Absolutely not.
everybody walking around in band shirts.
No, no. And even like, Iron Maiden started, they started it as well. And I think, they toured with Kiss and they saw that. And I think when you talk about like a heavy metal band that takes the merch up to a next level, then
Yeah.
you've got to talk about Iron Maiden. But everybody has done it, and now you can not only get shirts, you get shirts and mugs and socks, and obviously there's always been patches. There's always been battle
Yeah.
vests and things like that. But you see it a lot more, and then you see them partnering um with other people. I have some, like the Funko, for example, right? They become
Hmm.
huge,
Yeah.
and you can get a Funko in like anybody, like Steve Perry from Journey to Lemmy to
Yeah.
when I have a bunch of Eddies, obviously, and you know and that is a huge revenue for not only that company but also the bands,
Yeah,
and then
absolutely. Yeah.
and like Iron Maiden pop they partnered with uh they have a Monopoly game now, and like really I think they've really picked it up kind of where Kiss, they kind of followed the trajectory of Kiss in that respect. But you see, I mean, if you are online, you are always going to see these companies that are just like, you can get a, Judas Priest mug and a, you
Yeah.
know, whatever, pajama pants that have, whatever band logo on it or whatever. Like there's like, I mean, it's whatever you want. I have My niece gave me a travel baggage luggage tag that is an Iron Maiden official. It says "Fly, live to fly, fly to live." And it is a official Iron Maiden merch, and it is a
Oh my
baggage
gosh.
tag.
It's true. They put it on everything. And I made a video a little whiles back that was something like, has rock and roll not dangerous anymore? And one of the things I commented on was is that you can walk into Walmart or Kohl's or one of these places and you can get a Guns N' Roses beach blanket. You can get
Yeah,
AC/DC flip-flops. You can get, and it's like this has sort of taken the danger and everything out of when you can get koozies for whoever. You know what I mean? It's just like it's become so like just out there where they put the brand on
on
almost
anything.
anything. And Iron Maiden was very, very smart. I mean, they were aware of this, and Steve Harris has talked about this, and their manager Rod Smallwood has talked about this about having Eddie allowed them to not have to have the band be the
Right,
image. It was Eddie
right.
was the image, and Eddie is a character, so you can put him in any kind of situation as they've done over the years, whether it's Eddie as the trooper, Eddie in an airplane, Aces, whatever. He's
Yeah,
evolved. He's over the years, and
he's
then the
died. He's
band.
come to back to
Yeah,
life. He's
exactly. And the band isn't, I mean, I think I like Judas Priest, and as much as I love Judas Priest, they're, maybe their look and everything. I mean, they've got the leather and everything, but eh, they never quite had that. Maybe the closest thing would be the British steel
right.
razor thing is kind
Yeah,
of an emblem for them. The Rolling Stones with the lip and
tongue,
tongues, that's sort of something too an iconic thing that you'll see on everything from
everything. Yeah,
hand towels to, hats to whatever. It almost like transcends what the band is. And
it
there's
is
like
because people don't know the music. I mean, there's
exactly
like
there's
people don't know what. I mean, I know people that know who Eddie is, and they have no idea who Iron Maiden is, and or people that see the Stones logo and they know the Stones, but they don't even know if they're still together. They like, oh, I kind of
right.
remember them from 50 years ago. Like they don't follow the band, they don't
Yeah.
know anything about them.
I'll give you an example. My son plays hockey, and it was a kid with a goalie helmet on, and he had the Danzig, or not the, yeah, the Danzig Misfits. No, the Misfits
Oh, the
skull thing,
Yeah.
right? And I said something to him this kid afterward. I was like, "Oh, you like the Misfits?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "That thing on the side of your helmet is the Misfits. It's a band." And he had no idea. He just thought it looked cool,
Yeah.
put it on the side of his helmet. Yeah, so there's a whole generation of kids that they think that these things, they don't know what these things are. They think that they're just like a brand,
Just a
with
character,
a
just yeah,
character. And
yeah,
Iron Maiden, even, the Iron Maiden lettering for their name, it's like so iconic that as us as metal fans, anytime you see that, you'll see people do that lettering for anything, for a cartoon or something, and
yeah. And you're like,
automatically
oh,
what they're referencing. So yeah, I think like once we get out of the 80s and into the 90s, it really would, maybe with the advent of the internet and people getting on the
absolutely.
internet. Not that bands didn't make t-shirts before, but if you go back and you look, like they usually had like one tour shirt that they had. Now Iron Maiden took that to another level where there'd be a unique tour shirt for different cities and special
Right.
events and stuff like that. But if you go back, like with Black Sabbath, their Mob Rules tour shirt, it's one shirt, Mob Rules Tour 81 or whatever, and that's pretty much what they had.
No, maybe you'd get a baseball shirt or a short sleeve
Yeah.
shirt option. But yeah, you didn't, maybe one or two, but that was it. I mean, not like now. And it's not just Iron Maiden and Kiss. It's you go anywhere and they've got like a plethora of shirts to choose from, all different styles, colors, and now, and as a woman, I'm happy about this. They do some female cut ones that I
Yeah.
like. But yeah, and I mean, and then you can go there and you can get sweatpants. I was at an Iron Maiden show. Somebody bought Iron Maiden sweatpants at the merch table. It's crazy.
And if you
Um,
remember back in the 80s, you used to be able to go in our local record store at the mall, had you could pick the print out from a book, or they had it on the
yep.
wall, and they would sort of whatever you call it, like steam it
Yeah.
down, and it was like sort of like it would peel and crack,
Yeah. You didn't have it
after.
very long.
Yeah, it didn't last, because I remember I had an AC/DC Highway to Hell shirt, and I was so proud of this, and I was able to get this and find this and everything. And after like 6 months, it started to peel and break and crack off of it. But those were sort of like the early. You sort of looked on the wall, or I think they
Yeah.
had a book actually. You look
Yeah.
through the book and you're like, okay, I want this, and can you put it on a black shirt or a white shirt or whatever? And they would sort of do it right there in the store for you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I had a few of those too. And yeah, they didn't last very long. You'd say to your mom, no, put this in the dryer.
So what's your history with merchandise? What's your
So,
memories of?
when my mom didn't really like Kiss, so she wasn't a big fan of like I couldn't get the lunchbox. I wasn't allowed to have the lunchbox, and I was really upset about the fact that I couldn't get that lunchbox. But um I didn't really start to get into like buying merch until I started to go to concerts, which was 1980. And then of course you'd go to the show and you'd get a t-shirt, maybe you'd get a poster, a tour book, things like that. And that was just kind of like what I would do. And then I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan, as pretty much everybody knows. And so I started to collect a lot of stuff from Iron Maiden over the years. And I still collect a lot of stuff. I try not to collect as much stuff, but I'm a little bit of a sucker for some stuff. But like I got some ACDC stamps about 20 years ago that came from Australia. Um,
Wow.
yeah, because they had done their postage stamps like just like the Iron Maiden had just done them in the UK had done them for Iron Maiden just recently. And so I try to be more selective about what I do now about buying stuff, because like yourself, I have like so many t-shirts, although I do have always get an event shirt at Iron Maiden. I have a lot of big shirts, but um I kind of try to like trim it in, but there is so much stuff out there. And there is like we were talking about Funko, and this is my somewhere in time, Eddie. I have a million of them. The other thing, and this is, I don't know if you can remember, I haven't even put this on the wall yet because I haven't nowhere, have to find a place to put it. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, wow,
That's the
cool.
stamp. That's the stamps.
Oh, nice. Did you
That's
put that
the,
together or you bought
no,
that
they,
as
I
a
bought
thing?
this. They had a
Okay.
couple of different ones and I bought the
Oh, yeah.
deluxe.
Oh, yeah. I see that it's sealed. Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
I haven't even put it up yet because like I said, and then, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this. This is Monopoly, Iron Maiden Monopoly. Um, the other thing that, so, but like an example is, so now a lot of people are doing the comic books. I think you've seen that.
Mhm.
Iron Maiden is doing a comic book. I didn't buy it. Bruce Dickinson is doing a comic book. I didn't buy it. Um, so I am trying to be a little bit more selective. And like I said, I get a lot of gifts from people because everybody knows, you know what I mean? So I have like
Mhm.
I have some earrings that are guitar pick earrings from Adrian Smith.
Wow.
So some cool stuff like that. And the other thing that's happening nowadays with merch, and you're seeing this not only with Iron Maiden, but with a lot of other bands, is they've gotten into the alcohol business,
Mm.
right? You got blackened whiskey from Metallica, and Motorhead has done some stuff, AC/DC's done some stuff, um,
Iron Maiden, of course.
Iron Maiden, of
I've got my
course.
Trooper beer bottle over
Do you
there.
have do you have this?
Let me grab the one that I have. Hold on. I got this actually from Rock and Ribs, Nico McBrain's place. So I have no idea
That's very
what
cool.
what year this
Yeah,
is or what the
yeah.
deal is with this,
I
but
have
I
a
got it
bunch.
right from
Yeah,
Rock and Ribs.
that's the place to get it. Yeah, I have a bunch of them, and I have all the different, flavors or whatever. And then I have this, and I have a Day of the Dead casket that came from a friend of mine, sent it from Mexico. Um, but like they've gotten into the booze business, and not just Iron Maiden. Like I said,
Yeah.
of course, um, it just went blank. Dave Mustaine has
Hmm.
beer as well.
I've got a Def
The Mo
Leppard beer can, unopened beer can. We went on the Monsters of Rock cruise and they were giving them away. So I have a Def Leppard. I don't know if it's a
I
Def
didn't even
Leppard
know
their
they
own
see. I didn't even
brew,
know
but it's
they. I
just,
didn't even know they did. That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean everybody's doing it now, and I mean now everybody's doing it because album sales aren't what they used to be.
Yeah.
Uh, so people are trying to make as much money as they can, and like even the smaller bands now, like a band like Night Demon, who's just a club band, they have a lot of merch now. You can buy like keychains and a wallet and
Yeah.
koozies and all of this stuff. And that's really how they're making their money.
And you know what some bands are doing? And God, I'm gonna try to remember the name of this band that I can't remember the name of the band. My son wanted me to take him to see this band that's like a power metal band that does they have their big song is Diggy Diggy Hole or something like that. They're like a Minecraft themed
Oh,
power metal band or something. And they were actually good. They dress up like they're what would you call it? Gimli. What was Gimli from Lord of the Rings?
oh yeah.
A dwarf?
Yeah, or whatever,
Yeah, right.
um,
That's their whole thing. They dress up like Gimli from Lord of
a
the
gnome
Rings,
or
and
whatever.
yeah, and their merchandise table was really interesting because they had the traditional stuff, the shirts and the hats and things like that. But I guess somebody in the band, one of the guys in the band was an artist, so there were prints, original prints that he was selling, and there were quite a few of them. And the other guy was into creating like Dungeons and Dragons action figures. I don't know if he created them or if he just painted them or whatever, but there was a whole bunch of those that you could buy. There was guitar picks, there was autographed stuff, but I thought it was really interesting that there were sort of these personal like things, like the guy's own artwork,
Yeah, like
these little statues that the
selling
guy
their own
had
stuff.
painted and stuff. Yeah, so it feels like it's kind of a one of a kind personal thing that you're
Yeah,
that you're getting from these artists rather than just some mass produced t-shirt or something like that. So people are trying to be creative, they're trying to come up with Not only just different things, but I see more and more bands trying to create things that are kind of personal, that like the artists themselves, maybe it's
Right. Because a
signed
lot of
or
them do a lot of different kinds of
yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, Deb Levine, who's a lead singer for the band Lady Beast, she does like tinctures and
Hmm.
things like that, and they're selling those at their shows as well. So I mean, because so many of the smaller bands have like day jobs, and they're doing a lot of different things, they're selling a lot of the stuff that they do, for their whatever their job is, as an artist or so I can't think of the other band, but somebody else does like welding and does like stuff like that. And so there's a lot of stuff out there that people are trying to like sell their stuff at their venue, at the it's a good, instead of having a brick and mortar store, I guess.
Yeah.
They kind of take their store with them.
So
But I
what's
think,
in
oh,
your
go ahead.
In your Iron Maiden collection there, what's your prized
You know
thing?
what? I don't
Your prized piece. You got something that's
probably my probably my picture discs. Just
okay.
lame. Just I love my picture discs. I hang them on my wall, and because you can't really listen to them because the sound quality is not that great on picture discs. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really all about the music for me. And so, like, I have the Monopoly game. It'll probably never get opened. I'll probably never play it, but it's just something to put on the wall, as my mother would say, another thing to dust. And she's not wrong, you know. I think things that I like my luggage tag. That means a lot to me because it came from my niece who knows what I love and thought about the gift. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So for that, that's that means a lot to me. What do you have that you treasure?
I'm not a big I don't buy a lot of merchandise. I have t-shirts, of course, but I didn't when I was growing up, I grew up in an isolated town in Pennsylvania. I wasn't near anything, so I never went into any concerts till I was in my 20s, till I was out of college and out of my house. And I'm not really I mean, I have a few little things. I have a couple of those Funko Pops over there and the Trooper beer thing that I bought, but I've never been a big and even when it comes to t-shirts now, I've sort of backed off with t-shirts where it has to really be something that I like. I don't like shirts with big prints on them anymore. I like it to
Yeah,
be kind of subtle, maybe just the band name or something like that. So I don't buy a lot of stuff anymore. And when it comes to music, I'm pretty much just this occupies most of my money, the
right.
vinyl,
Yeah, absolutely.
buying it in that sense. So if I've got $50 burning a hole in my pocket, I'd rather buy
Oh,
a
absolutely. Me as
record
well. Absolutely.
than buy like, but I do get the appeal of it because as fans and we have all the CDs, we have all the records, we have all that stuff already. So when something comes out and you love that band and there's something that's kind of cool and you want to have it hang on your wall or like I've got my Funko Pop figures and stuff like that.
Right.
I see the appeal to that because we're sort of at the point with this stuff where we've got all the albums and we've had all the albums for
Multiple versions because you get
yeah,
the
for
reissue and the
years
this and that
and years and years, so when
yeah.
you're still excited about your band and you want to have something to sort of get excited about, maybe it's that tour shirt that's only for your town or something like that. You want to have that. But I've never been, and as I've gotten older, I've started to phase out of wearing t-shirts, the band shirts. I've got a select number of shirts that I really like. And if I'm going to a show, I'll put a shirt on and stuff like that. But uh yeah, it's not something that I even sort of think about. Like I know Iron Maiden has a ton of stuff. I'm completely unaware of it. I don't know if I've ever been on Iron Maiden's official merchandise page. I've never even thought about like, hey, let me go see what they have so I can get something. It's just never even, it's just not my thing, I guess.
Well, now now I don't really order anything from them anyway. Well, I'm on the fan club, so you get like a discount. But the thing is that now the shipping, if it's coming from the UK, the shipping is more than like there was a shirt that said "Keep Calm and Maiden On," and I thought it was a cute shirt, and it was on sale. But then with the shipping, it was like it cost me more
Yeah.
to ship it, and I was like, nah, I don't really need this shirt. I think what happened. Well, I don't think I know that during the pandemic, I had nothing else to do but buy stuff. So I work in the service industry, so I was at work. I wasn't somebody that stayed at home. I actually ventured out and I worked long hours, and I would just come home and listen to music and buy stuff, and found myself buying a lot of stuff that I probably didn't need. But I don't really I don't buy t-shirts. I get a t-shirt if I'm at a show, and I never would get a t-shirt for a show that I wasn't at. I would never It would never occur to me to buy one off of eBay or something like that, because
Yeah.
I'm not a collector like that. You know what I mean? And like I went to an Iron Maiden show, and I wanted an event shirt and they didn't have them. And they usually give you 24-hour window that you can buy it online. And I missed the window. And then like I was for the fun of it, I went and looked to see, what they would be, like on eBay, and they were like $200 or something. It's like, I don't need
Yeah.
a t-shirt that says Mansfield, Massachusetts for $200. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just kind of stupid. So, I mean, I do like the event shirts, but I tend to wear concert shirts really like when I go to shows as well. I can't wear them to work, so it's not like,
Yeah.
and a
And
lot of mine don't fit me anymore. All my ones from, 30 years ago.
yeah, and you mentioned the price of that Iron Maiden shirt after the event, but even when you go to shows now, especially if it's an arena show, and I understand why bands have to do this because, and this is a whole nother topic. There's multiple people to discuss this on YouTube, but a lot of times venues take a cut of the band's merchandise. So if the band wants to sell the shirt for $25, they've got to jack it up to $35, maybe even $40 so that they can still make something off of it with, the venues taking their cut on it. And so for me, that's another thing. It's like, if I go out to a show, it's gosh, man. And, I made a video on how I'm starting to phase out of going to like big arena type shows because the tickets are so expensive. You got to pay to park. God forbid you want a beer or a pretzel or something
Or you
while
want to
you're
take your
there.
wife or your
Yeah,
kid, or
exactly.
yeah, I
For me and
mean,
my wife to go to
absolutely.
a show and for the parking and for the tickets, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So to then
Absolutely.
go down and spend $40 on a t-shirt is just it's a lot,
It
and
is a
I
lot. It is a lot. And the thing is you go to club shows now and the shirts are like $30, $40. Because
yeah,
like you said, I mean, the shirts at the arenas are usually like $50 or $60 up here. Um, I went to see Iron Maiden in Edmonton and in Canada, and the event shirt was 60 Canadian, which is what,
wow,
55 US. I mean, that's a lot.
yeah,
That's a lot. Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna have I mean, I don't know. Concerts are just it's just gotten completely out of control. You can't do anything anymore. You can't take your kids to a concert anymore. You can't take your kids to a baseball game anymore. Like you
yeah,
can't afford to do any of that stuff because it completely, and it's a $12 beer and it just completely adds up. But like you said, it's because there's so many hands in the pie.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know how many people are, stiff and Iron Maiden, and I think Rod Smallwood probably
yeah. He's
doesn't allow that because
yeah,
they're a big enough band. But it's different if but like a band that's playing at your local club is absolutely getting the promoter,
yeah.
the venue, yeah,
And
they're
like you
getting nailed.
mentioned, it's so hard to sell physical media, that the bands have to think of merchandise as almost like a first thought, whereas bands like Led Zeppelin, they were making millions from record sales and from concert revenue. So t-shirts were just like, yeah,
It's a
okay.
souvenir.
Yeah, exactly. It's a souvenir of the show. It wasn't like any sort of big time revenue stream for the band. Their main things were records and concert tickets and stuff like that. But now it's like it's completely flipped around where it's almost like back in the 50s when bands were just releasing singles, Buddy Holly and people like
Right,
that. The singles were just kind of like, okay, this is just to get the kids to come out to the shows. Nobody was selling millions and millions of copies. It really wasn't until the 70s and the Beatles with the full album, Sergeant
yep,
Pepper, the whole full album concept, and then you get Frampton Comes Alive and stuff like that. And then people are able to make millions of dollars just off of selling records. But that has completely flipped around now where it's all about, the merchandise and selling concert tickets. That's why bands have to go out, they have to tour, they have to have lots of merchandise options because if you're somebody like us that how many shirts can you have? So you got to walk up and you got to see something that's like, oh, that's different. That's
right,
really cool, or that design is really unique. It draws your eye towards it because if it's just some standard t-shirt or something nowadays, that's almost not enough. You have to have, and the kings of that now, I would say like Ghost is
yep,
somebody that's taken that mantle. If you want to talk about, if we were here to, touchstones, we would say Kiss, Iron Maiden, and I would say the modern band doing this to
I
this
would agree with
same
you.
level would be Ghost. And also Metallica is
Yeah,
very, very smart and very good about the way they sell merchandise. They will have pop-up trailers in the parking lot. They have it situated around the arena, like twice as much as what you would have for a typical band. They're
yeah,
very aware with these pop-up trailers with, selling
yeah,
all
yeah.
kinds of
No,
different things. They're
absolutely.
very smart about marketing the band and how they market the band and how they put the band out there. So,
Well, it used to be, you're 100% right, but it used to be that you put out an album, people bought the album, and then they went to see you play the album live. And now it's the other way around in the sense that you're going to see the show and they're saying, well, here's our album, go buy it. We're going to play the album. It's kind of the other way around instead of you buy the album and go to the show. It's like you go to the show and then it's more like the show is an advertisement to go buy the
yeah.
albums, you
And
know?
I would even say that the vinyl records of their new albums are almost like a piece of merchandise in the sense that
Exactly.
it's on the same sort of marketing logic as a t-shirt
It
where
is.
you're hoping that people are going to pick up this vinyl record as a souvenir at the show, something to remember the band by, whereas before everybody ran out to the store because there were record stores all over the place. People ran out and you got the record, but now it's almost like that would be an interesting question, like a band like Metallica, how much, let's say, vinyl records are they selling at shows as opposed to through storefronts? And I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same or more. They might sell more vinyl from their shows than they do from physical distribution at your brick and mortar
Right.
store because it's become a thing, just like on the merchandise, sitting there on the merchandise table. I mean, here's an interesting question. Back in the 70s and the 80s, I don't think bands sold their records or their
Remember,
cassette tapes
the
at their
only the
shows.
only time you ever saw that was always at like a club show, right? They would have their cassettes.
Yeah,
Like I
if it was
remember
like an
Mellisa and I dated
underground
people in the
band
80s and
or,
stuff like that, and we would have the merch table, and you would have your cassettes, and and they were like $5 or whatever. They were because these were like club bands,
yeah.
but you could never go to a. I never had gone to Metallica shows in the 80s where you were that and you bought your album or your CD there. That
Yeah,
wasn't a
and why
thing.
would you? Because they were in
You already
every
had it,
record
first of
shop
all,
and
right?
yeah, and you already had it. It was in every record shop. Every town had a record shop at their mall
Right,
and in their town. So it was kind of like, well, you don't need to come to us to get the cassette, our latest cassette. You go to the record store to get that.
right, right,
You buy the tour shirt because you can't get that somewhere else. But it's flipped around now where it's just as important for the big bands to sell. their latest record to be selling that at their shows. Because for a lot of people, and you hear this like about the younger generation that there's these things out there where like 63% of millennials who buy vinyl don't even play it. It's just
I heard that.
it's a souvenir thing. They hang it on their wall, and that's disappointing, but also in the same sense, hey, they're buying it, so it'd be nice
Right.
if they listen to it, but hey, if they're buying it because they want to have something physical and tangible, they put it on a shelf or something like that, and then they stream the album. Hey, it's better than nothing.
Well, wasn't it Bill Coyne that said that he didn't mind if they were burning Kiss albums as long as because they had to buy them first. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
as long as you get the sales, and then you hope that maybe they spin it at least one time before they hang it on the wall.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's I mean in back in the 80s there was picture discs as well, which were again a thing that you kind of, put on your wall because there wasn't, you can really listen to it. I mean, you could listen to it, but it wasn't that great um sound wise, that you did buy the if you were going to get that, or you're going to get the 12-inch single or something like that, it was a more of a collectible thing. But even now to buy albums is ridiculous, as you know.
Hmm.
It's expensive to buy albums too.
Yeah, and the prices
Everything has
just
just
keep
gone
going up,
completely,
and
completely out of control. And at some point, I kind of, you kind of wonder, what's going to
where's
happen.
the breaking point on this
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
stuff? And
yeah.
I feel like we're sort of approaching that point. I mean, I've told this story multiple times on my channel. My breaking point was when Ozzy put out Ordinary Man, and there were all kinds of like problems with the records. People were complaining, they were noisy, there was skipping, it was off center, all this other stuff. And eventually everybody said, oh, it was like Urban Outfitter had like a limited edition version of it. And I said, you know what, this is just it was expensive, and I said, this is ridiculous that the only way for me to get a copy of this record that's not going to be defective is that I have to go to a place that sells canoes and tents. It's like it's just stupid,
It
and it
is.
shouldn't
It
be
is
like
kind of like
that. The prices have gotten to this ridiculous point because very few people are just putting out a standard black record. And now everything's like gatefold engravings on one side. They're
pick your
spreading it across
color, pick
two
whatever
or three
color you
discs. There's
want.
7 different colors. There's because again, and I get it, it's hard to just make money off of just selling a standard record or a standard CD anymore. They have to try to make money any way they
There has to
can.
be a gimmick. There has to be a
Yeah,
gimmick,
so they have to appeal to the collectors. I made a video on are the record labels taking advantage of the hardcore
I
fans? And this is
remember that.
exactly what I
Yes.
was talking about. Like, when you're a hardcore Maiden fan like you are and things come out. I mean, Maiden is good about this. They're very respectful to the fans. They give the fans what they want. I never really felt like Iron Maiden takes advantage of people, but there's other artists where you're kind of like, it kind of is taking advantage of you when there's multiple versions of the record, and the only way you can get this song is if you buy the
The
Walmart
Walmart
version.
version.
Exactly, or
Yeah.
whatever. And it's
Yeah. Yeah. Which
uh,
is kind of weird too, that like that you like, the exclusive Walmart version of the song is or the Target, or yeah,
yeah,
it's kind of bizarre. Or you have to buy it online. You can't, like you said, you can't get it. You have to get it through Amazon, or you have to get it through
yeah,
the record company. I don't mind through the record company. I buy stuff through Metal Blade, through the record company, because they have some pretty good sales, and I usually get the stuff on sale, and I don't mind it going directly to the record company. It's kind of like cutting out the middleman, kind of like I buy a lot of stuff on Bandcamp,
yeah,
directly, because you have to now, because if you don't, you don't know where the money, most of the money's going to everybody else but the band.
yeah. And you saw artists for a little while there were getting into this. I don't even really understand what this is, but what is it? These digital
Oh, I
like
don't. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. Like
forget what that's
Tony
called.
Iommi was doing that,
Yeah,
NFTs or something.
NFTs, that's
Yeah,
it.
I'm too old for that.
Non-fungible something or another. And of course, that whole thing just completely the bottom fell out of that. And so it is kind of interesting to think where this could possibly go because there's again, there's people our age that we're reaching sort of a point where we're like, I don't really need any more Black Sabbath shirts. I already have a coffee mug. I've already got the, beach blanket or whatever.
Right.
So once you've done all the obvious things, bought all the obvious things, it's kind of like, well, what is next? What is going to be the next thing? And maybe it
Get
is
your, yeah, get your
more
currency.
personal things. Yeah, maybe it's more personal things like I was mentioning earlier where the artists are, you're buying something, maybe it's more experiences type of thing. You see it with meet and greets and stuff like
Yeah.
that. That's become a very big thing. Having
That's
some
another, well, that's another sort of thing
It's a
about
type
the,
of
like a merch,
merchandise. I
right?
mean,
It's
yeah, it's
absolutely a
something
type of merch, and that's expensive too.
yeah,
That's great. That's a whole nother show. That is a next level. I'm not a meet and greet kind of a gal, but
yeah.
I'm old school where you went and, you saw them at the back door of the venue.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I just don't know where it's gonna go, but tell everybody, just be selective about what you buy, and just go for the music first, and then if you've got money left over to buy a Funko, go
Yeah.
for
Exactly. All right. Well, this was a really great, fun
it.
discussion here about merchandise, kind
Absolutely.
of the history of it, our relationship with it, other, how it's evolved over the years, where it stands today. So let us know out there, everybody out there, what's your thoughts on merchandise where it is today? Do you buy a lot of merchandise? What do you typically buy when you go to shows? What do you like to buy? There's some people that are t-shirt collectors. There's other people that love novelty things and stuff like that. Let us know what kind of merchandise person you are out there. Let us know what you thought of some of our thoughts. I'd like to thank Melissa for
Thank you.
joining me here at
Thank
the
you so much.
You're
So
welcome,
much
and
fun.
I'm sure we'll have you back here at the Lair, and make sure you check out her podcast, Metal Chat with Melissa. I'll link that down below. Till we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.